Hello my dudes and welcome back to another video. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our Reddit videos that are posted daily. With that being said, let's jump into it. X rated for violence rather than sexuality, but if you want the most absolutely reviling accounts of human brutality imaginable, read a short account of the destruction of the Indies by Bartolomé de las Casas. One of the most memorable stories to me was a Spaniard who was out hunting deer or rabbits realized that his dogs were hungry and, not finding anything they could hunt, took a little boy from his mother, cut his arms and legs into chunks with his knife and distributed them among his dogs. Once they had eaten up these steaks, he threw the rest of the carcass on the ground for them to fight over. It wasn't just disease that wiped out Native Americans so quickly in South America, the Spaniards were responsible for the genocide of hundreds of thousands. In West Berlin, during the Cold War, the East Germans, and the Russians who helped them, opened a number of gay nightclubs and bars, hoping to use them as honey traps to blackmail and embarrass U.S. military personnel who might frequent them. The bars became so popular with the, at the time, underground gay culture in Berlin, that they stopped bothering to use them as honey traps because they could make more money by simply running the places as nightclubs and bars. The Roman Emperor Elagabalus, as a show of power upon entering Rome to become crowned emperor, he had hundreds of naked women drag his chariot down the streets of Rome. That one of the single biggest problems on the Lewis and Clark expedition was that they ran out of mercury after using it to treat rampant STDs, mainly syphilis. In fact, they used so much of it, that some of their campsites, they had more than 600 in the journey, have been positively identified by literally measuring the mercury in the latrines they dug nearby. Also, that York, Clark's one slave he brought along on the trip, was so exotic to many of the native tribes they passed, that many thought he was magical, and far more interesting than the 24 white people around him. Many native women wanted to, and did, have sex with him, and several chiefs apparently offered up their daughters to him for the night in hopes that he would impregnate them and leave some of his magic powers behind to bless the tribe. Additionally, one chief thought he was a practical joke the white people were playing on the gullible natives by painting up one of their men. The chief even tried to rub the paint off before believing that was his real skin color. Victor Hugo slept with so many prostitutes that on the day he died, all the brothels in Paris were closed, because so many of the prostitutes took the day off to mourn him. My understanding is that most common folk throughout much of history had very meager lodgings, and most families would sleep together both for warmth as well as the simple fact that they didn't have the space for people to sleep separately. If mom and dad were in the mood to procreate, the rest of the family was just there. This isn't really X-rated, but it's a fun and often forgotten fact nonetheless. We think of Leonardo da Vinci as a wiry old man with a long beard, but according to every record, he was very different. Most accounts describe him as lean and muscled, exceptionally tall, and very handsome. There are records of him being able to effortlessly bend iron horseshoes, crush door knockers, and he was known to earn extra money by challenging local tough guys to see who could throw large rocks furthest. In addition, he liked wearing garish, brightly colored clothes. He was also very generous, and was known to wander markets buying caged birds just to let them go. So in other words, he's a fucking alien. Many of the Native American names you read in history books have been translated into their English equivalent. Many times when they haven't, it's because they were very raunchy. A name like Buffalo Combe wasn't uncommon. Frankenstein author Mary Shelley lost her virginity on her mother's grave. Also, she carried around her dead husband's heart in a bag until her death, as when she burned his body it was the only part of him that didn't burn. Edit. Several people have pointed out it was actually his liver which she believed to be his heart. Either way, it's fucking weird. Ben Franklin was known to take air baths, where he would sit in a room for hours, totally nude. He believed it was good for overall health. Pirates loved them some anal sex during the golden age of piracy. They would usually take turns being the receptive partner, and it was considered tacky to refuse to be said receptive partner when it was your turn. In ancient Rome, babies weren't considered people until they were older. So if you gave birth to a child you didn't want, you could dispose of it in the same place where you disposed of all the other unwanted substances that came out of your body, the outhouse/toilet/poop hole in a field. No one questioned this unless the child was obviously of a certain age. Archaeologists find a lot of baby skeletons when they discover the toilets/sewers near ruins of Roman brothels. It's not just ancient times, Up until about the 1920s, doctors and midwives in the US would routinely euthanize deformed or defective children shortly after birth. A good portion of the reduction in birth mortality during the early 20th century was due to moving births into hospitals where the practice was banned. King Louis XVI had trouble impregnating Marie Antoinette because he had phimosis. At the time, he was fascinated with locks, so his opponents made jokes about the locksmith having trouble finding the keyhole. Julie d'Aubigny was a famous 17th-century French opera singer who once took the holy vows to enter a convent just so she could have sex with a nun. She also had a habit of seducing women at parties, which would lead their husbands to challenge her to a duel. She was an expert duelist and killed 10 men like this. Vlad the Impaler, the 15th-century leader of what is today Romania and also the inspiration for the character Dracula, was extremely creative in coming up with painful ways to kill prisoners. He decided that impaling people through the ass with sharp wooden stakes and letting a horse pull you until it came out through your face wasn't painful enough, so he decided to stop using sharply pointed stakes and a horse and instead switch to impaling people with a flat stake and turn it vertically as to allow gravity to do all of the work. That way none of your organs get pierced, so the process takes a lot longer. He would also sometimes have his meals brought to him while he watched this happen, so that helped inspire the myth that he was eating the people he killed. Benjamin Franklin had a gilf fetish. He wrote a long letter to a friend advising of the benefits of taking an older woman as a mistress. His reasons included: they are more thankful for the attention. They are more adventurous than younger women. They are experienced, and need not be trained. They are less likely to betray you in favor of another man. Edit. He was also very clear that the face ages, but the downstairs does not. That's all for today's video. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe and let us know what you want to see next. Also, check us out on Twitter @ThatWasFunny. Thanks for watching. Until next time.